attention as I placed the final hand-painted name cards around the dining table. At 70, I still loved these small, thoughtful touches. I smoothed my mother's embroidered tablecloth and adjusted the pine and candle centerpiece. "Perfect," I whispered, admiring a table set for 12. My 3 children, their spouses, 5 grandchildren, and me. It had been our tradition since Frank passed away 25 years ago. At 2:30 p.m., with plenty of time to change into the dark green dress I'd bought for the evening, my phone buzzed. Robert, my eldest. "Hello, sweetheart," I said, expecting a simple question about wine or seating. "Hey, Mom, there's been a change of plans." Something in his voice chilled me. "We're not coming for Christmas dinner." Actually, none of us are. We decided to do something different this year. I gripped the phone. Different. We're on a cruise. All of us. 15 days in the Caribbean. It was a last-minute deal. We couldn't pass it up. A cruise. On Christmas Eve. Using money I later discovered had been quietly withdrawn from my savings. Over $12,000, without a word. I stared at the feast I had prepared. The golden turkey, the spiced sweet potatoes, the pies cooling on the counter. The Christmas tree sparkled with decades of ornaments, gifts neatly wrapped beneath it. One by one I removed the name cards, the extra plates, the glasses. By dusk only a single place remained, mine. I poured a glass of the expensive wine meant for the family and raised it to the empty chairs. "Merry Christmas to me," I said softly. The turkey tasted like cardboard, but a quiet resolve settled in. This would be the last time anyone mistook my love for weakness. When they returned from their holiday at sea, they would find a very different home, and no family assets left to take for granted. My bedroom felt cavernous, every shadow a reminder of the family that had chosen a Caribbean cruise over Christmas with me. Unable to sleep, I climbed to the attic and pulled down the old cedar chest that held the history of my life. Photo albums, letters, keepsakes. Proof of decades of sacrifice for children who couldn't spare me a single holiday. The first album opened to Frank and me on our wedding day, both of us young and radiant. He looked striking in his Navy uniform, smile wide and certain. We had only 6 years together before a heart attack took him at 34, leaving me with 3 small children. Robert 5, Lisa 3, and Michael barely 18 months. I traced his face with my fingertips, remembering the fear of that moment in 1979. A young widow with a mortgage and 3 mouths to feed. Another album captured my children growing up, Robert's first day of school, Lisa's ballet recital, Michael's baseball games. What those happy snapshots hid were the double shifts I worked for 15 years. Office secretary by day, waitress by night, coming home long after midnight with aching feet while my sister Nancy watched the kids. I paused over holidays past, Christmas mornings where each child received exactly what they'd wished for, even when I skipped new coats or boots myself. Birthdays marked by cakes I baked from scratch after staying up all night. Robert's high school graduation photo showed him beaming beside the used car I'd scraped and saved to buy. The picture didn't reveal the 6 months of extra shifts it cost, or that I drove my own rusted car until it died 2 years later. Lisa's NYU acceptance letter was tucked into another album. Her partial scholarship barely dented the tuition, but I never let her see how close it came to breaking me. I quietly refinanced the house to cover the rest. Her success felt like mine. Michael's rebellious streak followed. School calls, job changes, and the lawyer I hired when he was caught with a small amount of marijuana at 19. $3,000 I didn't have, charged to a card I paid off for years. Behind the albums lay the property deeds, our main home, refinanced twice to fund their futures, the little lake cottage Frank and I bought before he died, and the wooded lot Frank inherited, meant for the family retreat we once dreamed of. All of it remained in my name, just as Frank had insisted. I closed the chest and stared out at the snow-covered yard where my children once built snowmen. I still paid to have it mowed and plowed, though my back could hardly manage a garden. My entire life had been about giving them stability and opportunity, sacrificing my own dreams so theirs could flourish. And how did they repay that devotion? By draining my savings for a trip they never invited me on. As dawn lightened the horizon, anger hardened into resolve. I thought I had raised them to value family, to show gratitude. I was wrong. Downstairs, the Christmas tree lights twinkled like a cruel joke. I yanked the plug, leaving the room in cold morning blue. In my small office off the kitchen, I opened my worn address book and found the number I needed. Lawrence Winters, Frank's college roommate and now a respected real estate attorney. We'd exchanged Christmas cards for years. "It's been too long, Edna," he said when he answered, his voice warm and steady. "Yes," I replied, my own voice firm with a new determination. "It has. And I need your help." "How are you holding up?" Lawrence asked. I hesitated. How could I tell my late husband's old friend that I'd spent Christmas alone while my children sailed the Caribbean on a trip funded by my own stolen savings? "I've been better," I said at last, my voice steadier than I felt. "I need legal advice about my properties." A pause. "Of course. Come to the office tomorrow." The next morning, I dressed with care. The navy pantsuit I'd worn to Lisa's college graduation, the pearl necklace Frank gave me on our 5th anniversary. I needed to look composed, even as my heart felt like glass. Lawrence's office occupied a beautifully restored Victorian downtown, polished wood, gleaming brass. He greeted me with a hug, his hair now completely silver. "You look well, Edna," he said kindly. "You're generous," I replied. "I look every day of my 70 years." Once we sat across from each other, his expression turned serious. "Now, tell me what's troubling you." The story spilled out. The Christmas feast I'd prepared, the abrupt call from Robert, the cruise, the unexplained withdrawal from my account. With each detail, my hurt hardened into resolve. When I finished, Lawrence steepled his fingers. "And you're certain they took the money without permission?" "Positive," I said. "Robert somehow accessed my account." He nodded gravely. "That's elder financial abuse. We could press charges." I shook my head. "Not yet. First, I need to know. My house, the lake cottage, the vacant lot. They're all still in my name?" "Yes," he confirmed, checking the file. "You never added the children to the deeds." "Thank goodness for stubbornness," I murmured. "Tell me what I can do with them." "They're yours outright. Sell, rent, gift, whatever you choose." I leaned forward. "I want to sell all of them before my family returns from their cruise." His eyebrows shot up. "All? Even the main house?" "Especially the main house." "Edna," he said gently, "this is a major decision. Perhaps—" "Lawrence," I interrupted. "I spent 45 years in that house, raising my children in every corner of it. But do you know what they see when they look at it? Dollar signs. I found a brochure for Sunny Pines Assisted Living. Robert's handwriting all over it. They were planning to convince me to move out after the holidays. They were going to take my home, my independence, my dignity." Lawrence's face darkened. "No, you don't understand," I continued, voice firm. "I will not be treated like a burden or leave them a windfall they don't deserve." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "If you're sure, I'll help. The market's strong. We can move quickly." A strange calm settled over me. "Good. I want something small and manageable, chosen by me before they come back. That's a tight timeline, but doable," he said, pulling a legal pad toward him. "What about their belongings in the house?" I thought of the childhood rooms still filled with boxes and furniture. Put everything in storage. I'll pay for 3 months. After that, it's their responsibility. And where will you go? For the first time in days, I felt a flutter of excitement. There's a condominium complex near the park, balconies that overlook the duck pond. I've always admired it. "Parkview condominiums," he said with a nod. "Lovely, and well within your budget after the sales." As we mapped out the details, the crushing weight I'd carried since Christmas Eve began to lift. I was finally taking back my life. For decades, I carried the weight of that house, the endless maintenance, the taxes, the memories both sweet and painful. I'd stayed because I believed my family needed a permanent home base, a place for holidays and milestones, a legacy to pass down. But their Christmas betrayal and the theft of my savings showed me exactly how much they valued that legacy. By the time I left Lawrence's office, the plan was set. He would contact real estate agents that very afternoon, and all 3 properties would be listed before week's end. If everything went smoothly, I'd be in a new home before my children's ship even docked. Driving back through the streets where I'd raised them, I felt something unexpected: freedom. For the first time in decades, every decision I made would be for me alone. Terrifying, exhilarating, absolutely right. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind. Lawrence connected me with Mary Ellison, a realtor known for fast sales. "These properties are gems, Mrs. Warren," she said, eyes bright as she toured my home. "With the market this hot, they'll move quickly." And they did. The lake cottage sold in just 3 days to a young couple who paid cash. The vacant lot went next, snapped up by a developer who'd been waiting for the chance. Those 2 sales alone easily covered the cost of a new condo and left a generous financial cushion. The main house, my home for 45 years, took a little longer, but within 2 weeks we had multiple offers. I accepted one from a family with 3 small children. The mother's eyes filled with tears as she looked out at the backyard. "I can already picture our kids playing here," she said, smiling at me. I nodded, remembering the days when my own children swung from the oak tree and chased fireflies across the lawn. Meanwhile, I found my perfect next chapter, a 2-bedroom condo on the 2nd floor of Parkview, its balcony overlooking the duck pond I'd admired on countless walks. The building offered an elevator, a small fitness room, and a cheerful lounge where neighbors gathered each morning for coffee. The kitchen needed updating and the carpet had seen better days, but it was mine. No history to weigh me down, just a fresh start. Sorting through the house was like unearthing layers of my life. There were moments of ache, tracing the height marks on Robert's old doorframe, sitting on the window seat where Lisa and I once read bedtime stories. But each memory was followed by the sharp recollection of Christmas Eve, the silent phone call, the empty chairs, and my resolve only strengthened. I hired movers to pack only what I chose to keep. My bedroom set, a favorite living room chair, carefully selected family photos, Frank's desk, kitchen essentials, and a few personal treasures. Everything else went either to the storage unit I'd rented for the children or to charity. "Are you sure about leaving the dining set?" the moving foreman asked, eyeing the solid cherry table that had hosted decades of family meals. "Yes," I said, my voice firm. "I won't need it where I'm going." Room by room I worked, labeling boxes with quiet precision. In Robert's old desk, I found a shoebox of birthday cards I'd written through the years. In Lisa's closet, the prom dress I had sewn by hand when we couldn't afford the one she wanted. In Michael's room, the guitar I'd bought for his 16th birthday, the one he played for only a summer before moving on to something new. Each memento went into carefully marked boxes for them to claim someday. 2 days before their cruise was set to end, I stood alone in the empty house. The walls were bare, the rooms echoed softly. Only the dining room remained furnished. The new owners had asked to buy the table and chairs. I walked through each space slowly, whispering my goodbyes to the place that had sheltered us through decades of laughter and heartbreak. In the quiet kitchen, I paused, remembering the smell of cookies baking as I once taught little Lisa to stir the batter just right. Then I closed the door for the last time, ready to begin the life I had finally chosen for myself. The living room held echoes of Christmas mornings, birthday parties, and late-night movie marathons. Out back, I could almost hear the laughter of summer barbecues and winter snowball fights. This house had been more than wood and brick. It was the very heart of our family, and now I was leaving it behind. When I locked the door for the last time and slid the key beneath the mat for the new owners, I felt no grief, only a deep, certain sense that I was doing the right thing. This chapter of my life had closed. A new one waited. Sunlight streamed through the wide windows of my new condominium, filling every corner with promise instead of ghosts. That first night, I moved furniture, arranged photos of Frank in his Navy uniform, the children when they were small, and adored me without hesitation, my parents on their 50th anniversary. Most of the walls I left bare, ready for memories not yet made. Later, I sat on the balcony with a glass of wine, watching ducks ripple the pond as the sunset turned the water to gold. For the first time in weeks, I let myself imagine my children's faces when they discovered what I had done. Shock, anger, accusations, maybe even challenges to my sanity. I knew the playbook. Adult children often fight a parent's independence. But I was ready. With Lawrence's help, I had updated my will. My grandchildren's education funds were secured through new trusts. My sister Nancy now held power of attorney, not my children. I protected myself and, in my own way, protected the next generation too. The following morning, as I sipped coffee on the balcony and watched an elderly neighbor feed the ducks, my phone lit up with Robert's name. I let it ring 3 times before answering. "Hello," I said, as calmly as if this were any other day. "Mom?" His voice was tight with panic. "Where are you? What's happening?" "We just got to the house. Another family is moving in. They said they bought it for me, so they'd gone straight from the cruise to the old house." Of course they had. They hadn't called me once in 15 days. Not a text. Not a check-in. They only wanted their own beds. "Yes," I said evenly. "I sold the house. And the lake cottage. And your father's lot." Silence. Then muffled voices in the background. Lisa's sharp pitch. Michael's low rumble. "Mom." Robert tried again, now speaking with forced patience. "What do you mean you sold the house? Where will you live? Where are we supposed to stay when we visit? Where's all our stuff?" "I live at Parkview Condominiums," I replied. "Your belongings are in a storage unit I've paid for 3 months. After that, it's your responsibility." I gave him the address and access code. "The keys are with the manager." "This is insane," Robert sputtered. You didn't even discuss this with us." "Like you discussed using $12,000 from my savings for your cruise." My tone stayed calm. "Or like you discussed putting me in Sunny Pines after the holidays." Another long silence. I heard a muffled, "How did she?" before Robert returned, voice unsteady. "Mom, that was just research. We were looking at options for the future." "My future," I corrected, "which is now secure in a home I chose, paid for with money from properties I owned." Lisa's voice cut in, clearly on speaker. "Those properties were our inheritance. You had no right to sell them without talking to us first." I tightened my grip on the coffee cup. "I had every right. The deeds were in my name alone. An inheritance applies only when I'm gone, which, despite your apparent plans, I am very much not." "That's not fair, Mom," Michael protested. "We never said we wanted you gone." "No," I said evenly. "You only planned to move me into a retirement home while you divided up what you thought you'd someday collect. Much more considerate." "You're blowing this out of proportion," Robert insisted, voice sliding into the condescending tone I knew too well. "We were just trying to think ahead." "Your future, you mean?" I replied. "I'm not getting any younger, and that's exactly why I chose to take charge of my life, instead of leaving it in the hands of children who abandoned me at Christmas and helped themselves to my savings." "We didn't steal," Lisa began. I ended the call. "Robert took $12,800 from my account without my knowledge or permission to pay for a family cruise I wasn't invited to." "Join," I cut in, my voice steady. "What would you call that?" Silence. "Mom," Robert said at last, softer now, almost coaxing. "You're upset, and I get it. But selling everything is extreme. Let's talk. Where are you? We'll come over and figure this out." I could picture the look on his face, the same one he wore as a teenager when he broke curfew, counting on my love to rescue him. "No, Robert, there's nothing to work out. The sales are final." "You can't be serious," Lisa's voice cracked. "What about all our memories in that house? What about Dad? How could you sell it out from under us?" Frank's name stung, but I held my ground. "Your father would be appalled at how you've treated me. He worked so hard to provide for us, to make sure I'd be safe. Do you think he'd approve of you taking my money and planning to put me in a home so you could have my property?" "It wasn't like that," Michael protested weakly. "It was exactly like that," I said, and I've stopped it. "Where are we supposed to go now?" Lisa demanded, anger overtaking her shock. "We just got off a cruise." "We need a place to sleep. I'm sure you can afford a hotel with what's left of my $12,800, I replied evenly. "Or stay with friends. That's what I would have done, had I been included in your family vacation." "This is ridiculous," Robert snapped, his patience gone. "You're acting like a spiteful child, not a 70-year-old woman." Have you lost your mind? Actually, I said calmly, I found it. For years, I kept a house too large for me, saved properties I didn't use because someday they'd be yours. I cooked your favorite meals, kept your rooms ready as though you were still children who might come home at any time. And how did you repay me? By excluding me from Christmas and taking my savings? No more. My life, my money, my home, they're mine. You'll regret this, Lisa said coldly. When you're old and lonely and need help, you'll regret pushing us away. I was old and lonely this past Christmas, I answered. The difference is that now it's on my terms, not forced by my children's neglect. Fine, Robert shot back, his voice hard. If that's how you want it, fine. But don't come running to us when you realize what a mistake you've made. I won't, I promised, and ended the call. I sat for a long while, watching ducks glide across the pond, my coffee cooling in the morning sun. Their words barely stung. The pain from Christmas Eve had been an open wound. Now it was only a fading bruise. The phone buzzed again, a text from Patricia, Robert's wife. How could you do this to your own family? The kids are devastated. They'll never visit Grandma's house again. I hope you're happy with yourself. I didn't reply. Instead, I turned the phone off, set it aside, and leaned back in my chair. For the first time in decades, I answered to no one. The feeling was both terrifying and exhilarating. A soft knock sounded at my door. My heart jumped. Had they found me already? But when I opened it, an elderly woman stood there holding a small potted plant. Hello there, she said with a warm smile. I'm Margaret from Unit 4C. I saw you moving in and wanted to welcome you to Parkview. I stared for a moment, then returned her smile. I'm Edna. Thank you for the welcome. Would you like to come in for coffee? As Margaret stepped inside, I felt something unexpected. The first fragile tendril of a new beginning. 6 months passed in what felt like a heartbeat. Spring turned to summer, and my balcony garden overflowed with herbs and flowers. I repainted the condo in colors I'd always loved, but Frank once thought too bold. Soft sage in the living room, warm terracotta in the kitchen. The old carpet was replaced with gleaming hardwood, easier on my knees and far more elegant. More importantly, I built a new life. Each morning, I joined neighbors for coffee in the community room. Margaret became a dear friend, and Arthur, a retired English professor, shared my love of mystery novels. 3 times a week, I took water aerobics at the community center. On Tuesdays, I read stories to children at the library. I was busier, more fulfilled, and more myself than I had been in decades. Weeks passed after that first confrontation without a single call. Then came brief, careful text messages. Robert letting me know they'd emptied the storage unit. Lisa asking if she could have her grandmother's recipe box. Michael wondering about some old sports memorabilia. I answered the practical questions, nothing more. The wound was still too raw, the betrayal too deep. They made tentative gestures on special days. Mother's Day brought cards with polite, neutral notes. My birthday in June earned stiff phone calls, but not one of them offered a true apology, and I refused to pretend nothing had happened. My grandchildren were different. Emma, Robert's 12-year-old, was the first to reach out, a hand-drawn card that read, I miss you, Grandma. It's not the same without your house. I called her immediately. The house may be gone, I told her, but I'm still here. Soon she was visiting my condo, eyes wide with delight. You can see the ducks from your balcony, she exclaimed. That visit opened the door. Before long, all the grandchildren came, sometimes dropped off while their parents waited in the car, sometimes staying for hours. I took them to the park, taught them to bake in my new kitchen, helped with homework at my smaller but welcoming table. Through them, I stayed connected, while keeping firm boundaries with their parents. Today was different. Exactly 6 months since I'd moved into Parkview, I had invited only my 3 children for dinner. No spouses, no grandchildren, just us. I prepared a simple meal of roast chicken and vegetables, feeling an unexpected calm. This wasn't about reconciliation or forgiveness, at least not yet. It was about clarity. They arrived together, presenting a united front. Robert, still handsome at 46, gray threading his hair. Lisa, elegant at 44, in a dress that likely cost more than my monthly mortgage. Michael, boyish at 42, fidgeting with his keys as if planning a quick escape. "Come in," I said, stepping aside to let them into the home none of them had yet seen. "Thank you for having us," Robert said carefully. Their eyes swept the space, registering the difference. Gone were the antiques and heirlooms of our old house. In their place were pieces chosen for me alone, a comfortable sectional perfect for my frame, art that reflected my taste, not their father's. A sleek television where I watched what I pleased. "It's nice," Lisa admitted, surprised. "Very modern." "Thank you," I replied, motioning toward the dining table, small enough to force eye contact, large enough for comfort. I set out my new dishes, not the decades-old family china. Once everyone was served, I sat and looked at the three adults I had once rocked to sleep. "Before we eat, I want to say something." They shifted in their chairs. Robert opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. "Please, let me finish. 6 months ago, I made a decision that shocked you. I sold the properties you expected to inherit. I moved without consulting you. I built a life apart from the one you imagined for me. This isn't about blame. It's about understanding." I held each gaze in turn. "For 45 years after your father died, I defined myself as your mother. Every choice, every extra shift, every holiday meal was for you. I don't regret it. It was love. But somewhere along the way, that sacrifice stopped being appreciated. I became a convenience, a free babysitter, a holiday host, a keeper of rooms you outgrew, not a person with my own needs and dreams." "Mom, that's not fair," Lisa began, but I gently shook my head. "It's the truth," I said softly, "and tonight you needed to hear it." "We've always appreciated you," Lisa said at last. "Have you?" I asked quietly. "Was it appreciation that led you to take my money without asking? To plan my future without including me? To leave me alone on Christmas Eve after I spent days preparing a dinner for all of you?" None of them met my eyes. "I'm not saying this to hurt you," I continued, softening my voice. "I'm saying it because at 70, I've learned that honesty matters more than polite silence. Loving you doesn't mean letting you treat me as an afterthought. We never meant to hurt you," Michael said, barely above a whisper. "We just didn't think." "That's exactly it," I agreed. "You didn't think about me, about my feelings, or the example you're setting for your own children." I drew a slow breath, but I've had 6 months to think. "I've decided what kind of relationship I want with you going forward. I'd like us to try again, not as mother and children, but as adults who respect each other." Robert looked up, surprise flickering across his face. "You want to reconcile?" "I want to build something new," I clarified. "The old way wasn't working. We need something healthier, with clear boundaries and mutual respect." Lisa frowned slightly. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means I am my own person with my own life," I said. "I won't be available at your convenience. I won't be taken for granted. You will not have access to my finances or make decisions about my future without my full participation." I served myself a slice of roast chicken before continuing. "It also means I want to know my grandchildren as people, not as occasional visitors. Invite me as a guest who is truly wanted. And when I do need help one day, I want to ask for it without fear of being overruled." Silence settled over the table, then Robert spoke, his voice rough. "I'm sorry, Mom. You're right. We treated you like an extension of ourselves, not as a person. What we did at Christmas was unforgivable." "It wasn't your finest moment," I allowed with a small smile. "But it isn't unforgivable. It's simply unforgettable." The tension eased. Conversation shifted to lighter topics. Grandchildren, school plays, neighborhood news, my new friends at Parkview. By dessert, a warm apple crisp from my mother's recipe, we were almost at ease again. When they left, Lisa hugged me and whispered, "I like your new place, Mom. It suits you." "Thank you," I said. "That's because I chose it for me." Later, I sat on my balcony in the soft summer twilight, fireflies glittering over the pond. The evening hadn't erased the past or guaranteed an easy future. Boundaries would need tending. Old habits would take time to change. But I felt peaceful, stronger than I had in years. The house was gone, The chapter closed, but I, Edna Warren, 70 years old and finally truly myself, remained. Independent, respected, free. Now I'm curious about you. If you were in my place, what would you have done? Have you faced something similar with your own family? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear how far this story reaches. And when you're ready for more, check out the other 2 stories on screen. They may surprise you.